So I'm going to talk to you for roughly 25 minutes. Sounds hectic, but I promise you, I will live to entertain. We're going to go through a little bit more about me, and you're going to hear about why I'm a little bit relevant, and why I should be talking to you. We're going to go through an introduction to graphic design, what graphic design is about, and what it is and what it's not. We're going to go through the different areas of graphic design. We're going to then talk about a little bit of interaction design. We're going to go through the courses that Inkscape offer, and a little bit of a breakdown of what those are, just in case some people are interested and want to join us on the dark side or the light side, depending on which way you want to go. And then we'll finally get into your FAQs. So that's when we'll get to talk to the team. So about me, my name is Tashira JJ. You can just call me Tash. I'm a graphic designer and an illustrator with about 6 years industry experience. I studied between 2011 and 2013. I don't like saying that, it makes me seem old, but it's fine. I did my BTech in 2014, and it was on using the semiotics of religion to make social commentary. So the great thing about that is that I got to pair my visual creativity, all the stuff that I learned about visual communication, and just take that and pair it with academic writing. I got to do a thesis, a dissertation, or whatever you want to refer to it as, and it's bound. It has my name in gold. It's really great. And sorry, I love to do a little brag session because it's my mom. It makes my mom proud. So yeah, so that's a little, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but just because you're doing design doesn't mean that you can't get into the academic side of things. So that's what I decided to do. Currently, I actually am a freelance designer and illustrator. I left the studios in 2017, and I decided to go out on my own back into the big scary world. And I am currently doing my master's. So that's where I am currently. What do I lecture? Well, I lecture typography, graphic application, multimedia, and computer applications, and image making. And there are a lot of fans, sorry. So now that I've kind of given you a little bit of a rundown on who I am, let's get into what you're here for. So the introduction to graphic design. What is graphic design? Saul Bass once said that design is thinking made visible. Graphic design is everywhere we look. We are enveloped in a world full of wonders and guidance, and the guidance that it provides. The signs of stores and billboards in cities and towns, I mean, you notice it everywhere. Infographic brochures that tell you how to build that fancy new gadget you just bought from Takealot, because I mean, it's pretty much majority of the buying that we could have been doing these days. The animated shot that is looping in a sponsored ad as you scroll down your Instagram, it's inescapable. Graphic design is an art, a profession of visual communication, combining images, words, and ideas to convey information to an audience. Even on your own person right now, someone had to design the clothing tags that are sewn to your clothes. Design is everywhere and it is infinite. You can tell that I'm a little bit excited about this, but yes. So before I get carried away, let's take a look at the most common forms that you might be able to think of. So I'm sure you've heard of logos. You can think of website design, advertisements and magazine or newspaper layouts. They're all prominent examples of graphic design. However, there are more areas of design that can sometimes be neglected to be mentioned, which maybe could be like lettering or typeface design, maybe even motion graphic design. We're kind of in the deep end right now, I'm giving you a whole bunch of information. But yeah, I know that can be a bit challenging to like keep that in your head, but I want you to start envisioning yourself as a graphic designer behind these concepts. Okay, so just hold that in your mindset, your headspace for a while, and just think about that. What would it be like to be a graphic designer, to be behind all of these logos and websites, billboards, all of that sort of stuff? What would it be like to be that person? So you might be in a position right now that's kind of like, oh, where do I even start? So let's break that down. A graphic designer will have a brief, which is essentially an assigned job to complete for a client or a studio. You as the designer will need to accomplish this in a certain amount of time. Deadlines are everything. You hold the solution for a problem that has been stated in the brief. So what elements would you use to build your solution? Think about that for a moment. There's no one restricting your creativity. You're the one who holds the solution. We as Inscape, an educational force, we're going to be the ones that give you the skills to master your solutions, to your problem solving. So let's go over some basic elements that are covered in the Inscape graphic design courses. So, do you love color? Color is one of the most important elements in design. In this course, in these courses rather, we will learn how it creates contrast, draws attention or subconsciously affects the brain to evoke feeling. That's something that you may not have thought of before, how color can actually start evoking a psychological effect on a person. So yeah, that might be a new sort of strategy that one would think of, but that's used all the time in design. Do you think visually? I'm sure if you are creative, you would definitely consider this a way that you would think. Graphic design is often referred to as visual communication, so definitely you would need to think visually to succeed in this course. And even if you don't, it's pretty easy to be coached into, that direction. We often perceive visual cues a lot faster than step-by-step logical thinking. So if you think of when you're at an airport, for example, and you really need to go to the loo, for example, you will scan the entire hallway or whatever it may be, and you will look for the icon that says toilet. You will immediately register that that's where the toilet is, maybe even before you read the word that's underneath it that says toilet. Just as a very brief example. Let's then take a look at this next word, which is typography. If you've ever come across this word before, you'll know that it's the art of arranging and working with type. So firstly, if you have heard of typography before and you know what it means, I'm very proud of you already. Like, before I started studying, I did not know what it was. So you're already leagues ahead of where I was. This often includes lettering and calligraphy, and you could have a lot of fun with that. It's involved in logo making and word mark making. It's great. It's integral to graphic design. You learn about terms such as tracking, leading, and kerning, which may sound pretty confusing at the moment, but they all play a part in the role of spacing and layout design. If anything confuses you about what I've just said, just stay away from Comic Sans. Just stay away from Comic Sans and you'll be fine. All right, so if we move on to what graphic design is as opposed to what it is not, let's talk about that for a second. So, and the reason I say this is because it kind of clarifies a little bit more as to why you should go into this course if you are thinking about it. So at this point in time, you might still be thinking, well, Tash, what is the difference between art and graphic design? You might also be asking yourself, I've seen so many courses on YouTube. if I just learned Photoshop online, I can be a graphic designer that way. Or Canva is another program that you may have seen. And, Tash, if I just use this, I'll be a graphic designer. I can design. There's an important defining factor, and it will help you determine whether you need to study graphic design or not. If you fail to communicate a message visually, we can then regard the work that has been produced as a creative expression. So I'm going to say that again. If you fail to communicate a message visually, we can then regard the work that has been produced as a creative expression. If you intend to send out a message to your audience, and that message isn't perceived correctly, that is also a failure. So that is, some might define that under the confines of art, because it's freedom of expression. You don't need it to hit a complete target. Some might, some may not. I think there's more freedom when it comes to art. Design has strict guidelines for the most part. All right, so design must be interpreted by multiple viewers in the same way to be considered successful and to function well. So graphic design revolves around the structures of visual problem solving. It is not only about being familiar with the latest design software. So you can tell that friend of yours that, or maybe even yourself, tell yourself, it is not only about knowing Photoshop. It is not only about knowing what's another one? Illustrator. There's equivalents that I can't think of right now. It's not just about the software. You need to know about the skills and hitting the correct target markets and what's involved with that. So next, what does graphic design require of you? First is creativity. Next, okay, I'm not going to go into creativity because that's, I think, a given. The next point that I have here is patience and determination. So I'm not only thinking of patience because of the clients that you'll face after you get into this career, when you're in a studio and when you're working under a boss and he gives you a job and you need to work for a client, and this client is just not satisfied and he's continuously giving you reverts, and which is basically sending you work back and asking for changes. That's not the only instance where you'll need to exhibit patience. Patience is also going to be needed where you're in class and you're going to be asked for, your lecturer will rather ask you to work on certain areas, work on certain skills, and you're going to need to push through that. You're going to need to work on that, and that's going to take determination and patience. Attention to detail. So this one is not necessarily a naturally given characteristic. This needs to be worked on, and in first year, I think this is hammered out a lot in our courses. We focus a lot in first year on the details, just getting everybody to focus on whether they are aligning things correctly, whether the color palettes are fine, whether the spacing is correct. All of those things seem so mundane at times, but we're going to look at all of these things with priority, with the highest priority, because it makes a good designer. You want somebody who will take care of all the details, and it sounds a little bit frivolous, but it is very important. That then kind of feeds into the enthusiasm that you'll need. You need to bring your own enthusiasm. Sometimes life is not going to be great. Sometimes you'll have a bad day. You'll be thrown some curveballs. And you know what? You need to pitch up in that day and bring your own kind of, that saying, you need to bring your own sunshine. That's what it'll be like. But you definitely have it in you. And if you push through, you'll see the results of that. You'll see the fruit of that. Next up, we have perseverance, which I'm sure I just covered that. Oh my goodness, sorry. So next up we have your personality. That's the next keyword. So I definitely think every designer needs to come into this with their own personality, because that shines through their design, and it's what makes it unique. it is definitely what makes design valuable to the industry. It is what makes you valuable to studios afterwards when they seek you to sort of, you know, headhunt you. So I'll definitely say, don't ever sacrifice your personality, rather integrate it into your design. Okay. Right, so one thing that I want to add to that is that there are no two kinds of design are the same, and that is the beauty of those kind of design in general. Okay, sorry, somebody has their video on, so if you could please, if you have your video on, could you just please switch that off for me? Otherwise, I'm going to continue. So we've basically covered graphic design. We've spoken about that, we've broken it down. And now I'm going to move into something else called interaction design. We've spoken about how visual communication is important for graphic design. We've spoken about how it informs how well a design works, and how it's integral. It's not about how pretty the design is. It's important because it informs how successful a design is. Now we're going to talk about interaction design. So what is interaction design? Well, first, let's deconstruct the word interaction. It means reciprocal action or influence. This refers to the ongoing interaction between two parties. So I communicate with you, you communicate with me, and over time we develop a relationship. So this is the core concept in interaction design, as the relationship can be built through product design. So you would be designing for a user, and that user, with the intention of the user developing a relationship with the product that they are using. Think about it, your favorite brand or your favorite product, you develop loyalty to that product. Interaction design is a little bit different though, because we're not working with a physical packaging or a physical brand. In this case, the products you design are having a conversation with the users you are designing for. So for context, we're talking about websites here. At this stage, you might be wondering how it's relevant to you in Inscape. Well, like I said, we're talking about the context of websites and how users interact with websites. You will find that interaction design is quite important. So interaction design is creating the conversation between a product or a system and how it works with their users. So think about Facebook, think about Instagram. You just go on there. You don't have to think, well, hopefully, you don't have to think so much about where your inbox is, how you find your notifications. You just kind of seamlessly go on and find what you need to find. Interaction design is heavily involved with that sort of process. And we have courses a course at Inscape that will teach you the necessary skills to sort of develop that and become familiar with how to achieve that. So in short, the objective of interaction design is to make the design of websites and perhaps even apps user-friendly to the point that the user doesn't have to think about the processes that they are conducting. Essentially, you make it feel like a natural conversation. And we're getting closer to the nuts and bolts here and the closing, so stay with me if you're getting lost. I hope I've entertained. I'll try juggling next time, but yes. So the overview of courses and subjects, let's just go through that quickly and what's available to you as a potential student and what you can apply for. So for graphic design, you have your diploma in graphic design, your Bachelor of Graphic Design, and potentially, if you're willing or wanting to do this, a Design Techniques higher certificate. For interaction design, like we mentioned and spoke about just briefly just now, we have the interaction design degree as well. So let's first go through what is involved with the diploma in graphic design. So your diploma in graphic design is a 3-year course. This is where junior graphic designers who have this qualification, they will effectively use and manage relevant graphic design technology. And this includes designing, preparing designs for reproduction, which will be using software applications and managing reproduction processes. So this will involve specifications and costing and quality control. They will collaborate with other designers and professionals within the graphic design industry. They work effectively in creative teams. They communicate in design language and confidently present design solutions. So you will have a very hands-on experience in the design industry, working in teams, pitching, being on board, being very involved in the team process. The Bachelor of Graphic Design course, however, differs slightly. The Bachelor of Graphic Design course is a 3-year course as well. And in year 1 of this course, you will experience multiple subjects that give you the experience of each of the other degree courses in Inkscape. You will then choose to specialize in your 2nd year of your degree. So if you decide to specialize into graphic design, you will become skilled in the areas of typography, image making, photography, interactive design, motion graphics, need to breathe, 3D design, and finally animation. That was a mouthful, but think about it, that being experienced in all those subject matters is fantastic and a great asset. So the latest software will also become second nature to you and your main artillery. Foundational design skills will be strengthened and equipping you to be a valuable asset to the industry. In this course, you will become visual storytellers, and strategy and marketing skills are sharpened here, so leading you to embrace not only design positions in the realm of graphic arts, branding, advertising, social media, and information design, but also the responsibilities of art direction. Okay, so that's got a little bit, or actually it's quite involved with strategy and academic writing as well as design and experience, but it is quite academic in its role. We'll talk more about that. If you have questions about that, Wanele will go through how you can apply for all of these, just so that everybody's comfortable. This will be covered in the FAQs. All right, moving on to design techniques, the high certificate. So if you have not taken art as a major in school and you desire to complete your degree in graphic design, Inkscape offers a higher certificate option in design techniques that spans the length of a year. So this year covers some technical skills specifically in relation to the introduction to visual, creative, and digital design. The course focuses on applied creativity, basic drawing skills, creative mediums, and digital graphics. It familiarizes participants in the areas of graphic design, multimedia design, spatial design, design research, and design writing. So once you've successfully completed this year, you are then able to go into the degree design course without any issue. Again, you can find out a bit more about that from Wanele if you have any questions. Finally, the last course that I'm going to cover in this session is interaction design. So in addition to graphic design, we have this course, interaction design, and it is again a 3-year degree. Interaction designers develop cohesive systems that deeply impact people's lives. So like we mentioned earlier, it's that conversation with the user, and if you think about it, it is integrated in your life quite a bit. Think about how much you use social media and how much you are on websites. So systems design, which is also referred to as UX, and human computer interactive interface design are relatively new professions. Topics covered in this course to prepare graduates to enter this advanced industry include human computer interaction, designing and coding interactive interfaces across a variety of platforms, and this will be web-based, mobile, and small screen applications, data visualization and infographics, the design of digital information, the principles of user experience design, coding languages, viewer consumer behavior in a digital environment, digital integrated marketing, digital branding, and digital design management. Graduates will then be equipped with technical tools, design skills, and an understanding of the human factors involved in systems design.